Police operatives in Zamfara State have arrested a 38-year-old man in Gusau after intercepting 954 pieces of suspected explosive devices, carefully concealed in polythene bags and boxes. According to the police, these explosives were not ordinary materials. They were allegedly meant to be delivered to bandits hiding in remote areas, to be used in the production of improvised explosive devices. Now pause for a moment and think about that number, 954 pieces. That is not something anyone carries by accident. That is enough to cause destruction, fear, and loss across several communities if it had reached its destination. This arrest, authorities say, may have prevented another wave of violence in a state that has already endured too much. It happened along the Yan Katako area of Gusau, a location known for movement related to illegal mining activities. The place looks ordinary on the surface. Dusty roads, roadside traders, passing vehicles, and people trying to go about their daily lives. But beneath that calm surface, security agencies say something dangerous was unfolding.
According to the Zamfara State Police Command, operatives attached to the Task Force on Illegal Mining acted on a credible intelligence report. The information suggested that a suspect was transporting dangerous materials through the area. Now, at this point, officers did not know exactly what they would find. They only knew they had to act fast and act carefully. When they stopped a Toyota Corolla, they found a man behind the wheel, calm, quiet, and not drawing attention to himself. But a search of the vehicle revealed something else entirely. Inside were polythene bags and boxes, tightly packed and deliberately hidden. Inside those bags were 954 pieces of suspected explosive materials. That was the moment the tension changed. The suspect, aged 38, was immediately taken into custody. According to police sources, there was no resistance, but the atmosphere quickly became tense as officers realized the scale of what they had just intercepted.
Speaking exclusively to TVC News, the Zamfara State Police Public Relations Officer, DSP Abubakar, confirmed the arrest and the recovery. He explained that the operation was successful because of timely intelligence and coordinated action by the task force. Preliminary investigations, he said, indicate that the explosives were intended for bandits operating in hideouts where they would be used to manufacture IEDs. But here's where the story gets more deeper. IEDs are not just weapons, they are tools of fear. They are planted on roads, paths, near villages, or along routes used by farmers, travelers, and even security operatives. They don't choose victims. Anyone can step on one. Anyone can be caught in the blast. So the question many are now asking is simple but troubling. How many lives could have been lost if this vehicle had not been stopped?
Now, let's look at what witnesses saw and felt. Residents around Yan Katako say they noticed unusual security movement that day. Some people stopped to watch from a distance. Others quietly moved away, sensing something serious was happening. A trader nearby said later, "We just saw police stopping a car. At first, we thought it was a normal checkpoint. Then we saw more officers arriving, and everyone became quiet." Another resident described the mood as tense. "When we heard they found explosives, people were shocked. Some of us pass that road every day." This was not an isolated road in the forest. This was an area where families move through, where traders transport goods, where children sometimes pass on motorcycles. The idea that such deadly materials were moving silently through that space is frightening. Security experts say the recovery of such a large number of explosive devices points to something bigger than a single suspect. These materials, according to police investigations, were allegedly meant for bandits, criminal groups already known for attacks, kidnappings, and ambushes across Zamfara and neighboring states.
IEDs have increasingly become a weapon of choice because they are cheap to make, easy to plant, and difficult to detect. Once manufactured, they can be placed along highways, footpaths, or near villages. This raises a serious concern. How many supply routes like this exist, and how many have gone undetected? The police believe the arrested suspect may be part of a wider network involved in supplying bandits with weapons and materials. That is why investigations are still ongoing, with the aim of tracking down other members of the gang. The Zamfara State Police Command says the suspect is currently in custody and undergoing detailed investigation. Officers are working to trace where the explosives came from, who financed the operation, and who was supposed to receive them. According to DSP Abubakar, the command is determined to dismantle the entire network, not just stop at one arrest. This is part of our ongoing efforts to cut off supply lines to criminal elements, a police source said. And that effort goes beyond arrests. Police authorities have once again called on residents to cooperate, stressing that intelligence from the public remains one of the strongest tools in the fight against banditry and kidnapping. Across Gusau and neighboring communities, the reaction has been mixed: relief that the explosives were intercepted, but fear over how close danger came. Many residents say the news has reminded them of how fragile daily life can be in areas affected by insecurity.
A farmer from a nearby village said, "We thank God they caught him, but it also scares us. If they didn't, maybe tomorrow we would hear of another attack." Others are calling for increased patrols and stricter monitoring of roads, especially in areas linked to illegal mining. Illegal mining, security analysts say, often creates hidden routes and networks that criminals exploit. These routes are used to move minerals, weapons, and now, as this case shows, explosive materials. But here's an uncomfortable truth. Illegal mining has become more than an environmental or economic problem in Zamfara. It has turned into a security threat. Remote mining sites often double as hideouts or transit points for criminals. The money generated can fund weapons, logistics, and recruitment. The arrest along Yan Katako has once again highlighted this dangerous connection. So we must ask, can the fight against banditry succeed without addressing illegal mining head-on? Security experts argue that it cannot. Cutting off criminal supply chains requires tackling the sources of funding, movement, and logistics, and illegal mining sits at the center of many of these networks. For residents, stories like this bring back memories of past attacks: villages raided, roads blocked, travelers kidnapped, lives lost. IEDs, in particular, carry a special kind of fear. They don't announce themselves, they wait, and when they strike, they leave devastation behind. That is why many see this arrest as a small but important victory. It shows that intelligence works. It shows that cooperation can save lives. And it shows that vigilance still matters. But it also shows that the threat is still very real. Police appeal to the public. Once again, the police have urged residents to report any suspicious movement, items, or activities to the nearest security agency. They stress that information, no matter how small it may seem, can make a difference. A strange vehicle parked too long, unusual movement at odd hours, packages being moved secretly, these are the little signs that can prevent big disasters. And here's another question worth asking. Would you speak up if you noticed something unusual, or would you assume someone else will?
This incident carries several important lessons. First, insecurity is not only fought on the battlefield or in forests, it is also fought on highways, in towns, and through everyday vigilance. Second, criminals rely on secrecy and silence. When communities speak up, that secrecy breaks. Third, the supply of weapons and explosives is just as dangerous as their use. Stopping them early saves lives. And finally, security is a shared responsibility. Police alone cannot be everywhere. Communities matter. As night falls in Gusau and communities settle into uneasy calm, one thing is clear: a disaster was narrowly avoided. Somewhere, a group of bandits may now be waiting for materials that will never arrive. Somewhere, families who unknowingly crossed paths with that vehicle are safe today because someone acted on intelligence. But the work is far from over. The arrest of a 38-year-old suspect with 954 explosive devices is both a warning and a reminder. A warning that danger can move quietly among us, and a reminder that alertness, cooperation, and courage can stop it. So the question remains for all of us: what role will you play in keeping your community safe? Because in the fight against banditry and violence, silence is dangerous, but awareness saves lives.